This is Titus, when you were saying that about the grace.
Yeah.
2 verse 11 down, it says, for the grace of God that bringeth salvation have appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. In this present world. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Amen.
So that's the grace of God. It teaches us, we save by the grace. There's a saving grace. And then we have this grace that is teaching us. It has given us the grace. And also it teaches us, to deny all the worldly things, how to live, denying ungodliness, and then worldly lust. Worldly lust is so many, that we should live soberly and righteously, and then godly in this present world. So if somebody says we are saved by the grace so we can live how we want, there's a problem. Because this is the grace of God. It says the grace of God has appeared. The grace of God that bringeth salvation.
That's the key. Yeah.
That bringeth salvation have appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world.
Amen.
So the grace is not just to save us, to leave us to live anyhow we want, but rather to save us to live and teach us to live according to the will of God.
Exactly, Janet.
Titus chapter 2, verse 11 to 12.
Yeah, I'm there. I think what you've said is just the key, because it's basically when it says for the grace of God that brings salvation, it's not saying, like you just said, it's not saying that the grace of God allows us to do anything. It brings the grace, it's saying that the grace of God brings salvation, which is us becoming more as God intends us to be, from righteousness to holiness. It's not enabling us to do anything within our own desire, which may not be aligned with what God wants us to do. So there's a massive difference, I think.
Yeah, there is. There is. But that massiveness, the difference, that's what we don't want to talk about. That's what we don't want to teach. He said we are in the world, but we are not part of it. So God has called us to separate us from the world, that we should be a light in the world. But if God has called us and we say, no, you have called us, we are here, but actually I cannot leave the world, but I still want to come to you. You cannot serve two masters at the same time.
Absolutely.
It's either you are for Christ or you are for the world. If you are in the light, as he wrote to the 7 churches, if you are in the light, be in the light. If you are in the darkness, stay in the darkness. But somewhere he says, I wish that you were cold or hot, but because you are neither cold or hot, I will vomit you out from my mouth.
That's right.
So if we want to be hot, we should be hot. If we want to be cold, we have to be cold. We cannot be in between. There is heaven, there is earth, heaven and hell. There is no in between. Hey.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's me.
That's me too.